First, I would like to thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure for me.
Just give a quick introduction about our podcast. So Opulence podcast shed light on the luxury industry in general. And we would like to, through leading experts such as yourself, we would like to know what's happening in the luxury industry, what's the trend, etc. So any person who are interested to join the industry will have this kind of knowledge shared from you guys, the leading experts. So thank you so much.
Yes. I'm actually teaching luxury management at Lewis University in Rome and in other institutions. And I also work in the industry, so I have the dual role. After a few years of experience in fast mover consumer goods, I joined the luxury industry in 2000. Initially, I worked for Bulgari for 15 years, managing Italy, Europe, and finally the United States business. As you know, Bulgari has been acquired by LVMH in 2011. So during that period, I moved from Bulgari to Loro Piana, which is another luxury brand of the group, where I stayed a couple of years. Then I came back to jewelry, which is my passion, and I work for Pomellato, and now since 3 years I work for Dolce & Gabbana in the jewelry watches division. So I have the opportunity to see the business both from a real business standpoint, working in the industry, but also from an academic point of view, because I teach this subject since almost 20 years now. So this is my experience.
And I think it's very, very important, especially for students or people who want to enter the industry, to have someone like you who comes from the different perspective, the education and theoretical part, and also the business part. So, Professor,
Yes.
the first question we have is basically, I want to get your view about the general trend from wholesale to retail and luxury.
Yes, I mean, we saw in these years a common trend moving from wholesale to retail. Some brands have been retail since the beginning, thinking about Hermès, Chanel, Vuitton. I mean, these brands has always been only retail, but other brands in some markets they've been using both channels. Very emblematic is what is happening in the watch industry. Many watch brands initially were only wholesale, now they are moving into retail. We see opening monobrand stores from IWC, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Vacheron Constantin. All these brands are now opening monobrand stores. Of course, I mean, going retail is a necessity for brand, because each brand wants to see his own lifestyle, his own representation done in the best possible way. The store has now become a place where the consumer live a full experience.
Exactly.
We want to make sure that the experience is delivered the way we want. That's why you see a constant trend of moving from wholesale to retail. And this is going to happen also in the future.
And I remember, Professor, in our previous call, you spoke about the importance of storytelling and experience in sales now. And we also see that in the changes of role. Now we see more of, instead of only sales associate, or role is to sell something, is becoming more of a client relationship manager. So what do you think about that change in terms of roles and responsibility, and how important is creating that kind of experience for client?
Well, I mean, I think it's very simple. I mean, we all of us working in this industry, we realize that is easier to keep a customer than acquire a new one. Acquiring a new customer requires a lot of efforts. Yes. Maintaining an existing one is easier. But in order to maintain customers, you have to deliver experience. You have to give them a very positive not only the shopping experience, the whole environment and the engagement with the brands. So, and this become fundamental for all brands. Doing this and in romancing the brand, which is what we do, storytelling plays a key role.
Yes.
Because people tend to remember, and I mean, it's proven from a scientific point of view that people trust more stories that are told by friends than what they read on the newspaper, what they read on social media, or whatever. Stories, if the story is well crafted, which is not easy, are the most powerful meaning. But if we want to define storytelling, don't confuse storytelling with the history of the brand. The history of the brand is boring. Storytelling is not boring. Storytelling is captivating. Storytelling is something that you will tell to a friend before the end of the day. You don't call a friend to say, hey, you know the history of Hermes? Nobody cares of that. But you may tell your friend and say, hey, you know why Birkin bag has been named Birkin? And you can tell the history of that little story. And this is captivating. This little story conveys a positive value of the brand. And people tend to remember this, and people tend to talk about this. So that's why, and this is one of the most powerful tools that luxury brands have.
Yeah, it's like the emotional hook you share with your clients, and it will make more sense if it's customized based on region, based on a certain demographic, because you'll be targeting the specific audience.
Yes, of course. I mean, the experience should be customized by region, by territory, by client. Of course, we cannot have the same approach in different markets, of course, and this is given to the ability of the people. I mean, I always like to, sometimes when I describe the importance of retail to my students, I say, hey, can you imagine? I mean, brands spend a fortune in renting a store. Imagine renting a store in Dubai Mall, in Vendome, or, cost a fortune. Then they invest millions of money to build the store, because the stores are super expensive. They have marble, they have, and then you delegate all this investment to a single person, which is the person that meets the customer. So this person has a huge responsibility, not only representing the brand, but also because the brand has invested so much money to attract the customer into that physical location, and then delegates to this last person all the responsibility. And this is an incredible responsibility. So that's why we need to constantly train people. We need to design selling ceremony, which are dedicated by customer, by geography, by region. And this is one of the biggest challenges that we have now in luxury.
True. Also, Professor, we see a lot of multi-brand stores, concept stores. How important are they for emerging brands or designers?
Yes, of course. I mean, brands that retail is becoming very, very competitive because the good location, they're super expensive. Only major brands can afford this cost.
Yes.
And that's why, emerging brands, medium-sized brand cannot afford this, at least in every market. So for emerging brands, for medium-sized brand, probably the best strategy is to have a blended distribution strategy. So maybe having 2 or 3, 4 flagship store in the main city, and then delegate to either department store or multi-brand store the distribution in secondary markets. And this is going to stay for sure for quite a long time, because the number of emerging brands or small brands is increase because consumer wants more choices.
Sure.
And that's why we have to accept the fact that we have super big giant, and then many medium small brands
Yeah.
were growing. Yeah.
Professor, you mentioned distribution formats. Based on your experience, what are the best, let's say, if we can say best formats we can use for distribution?
The best format is the format that you can afford, because this is the question. I mean, if you can afford
Yeah.
to have a beautiful flagship store,
Yeah.
the best mall, and when I say afford, it means that, you know, financially
Yes.
you can pay for it. Of course, that is the best format. But if you cannot afford that size, that store, that location, that mall, of course, you have to compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, compromising, which is not a bad word, I mean, means to find the smart solution,
Yeah.
to find the best solution available for each single market. That's
Yes.
why you need experienced people working in retail, because you have to understand the potential of the market, understand which is the right size of a store that you can afford in that particular market. So
Yeah.
I see in the future, you know, you know, proliferation of many different formats, even pop-ups, for instance, maybe a good way.
Yeah.
But all is based on the financial results, of
And
course.
what do you think about the online shopping experiences? Would it be something?
Online, okay. We saw we have two things we should keep in mind. One is that the online penetration is proportional to the price of the object. So if you want to buy something cheap, you go online, you rely online. When it comes to buy something expensive,
Yeah.
you want to make sure. And so we see that for the high ticket items, there is a drop, significant drop in the e-commerce penetration. Having said that, we saw that there was a peak of e-commerce during COVID, of course, but now the percentage of e-commerce is declining for all brands. And the reason is simple, because you know, purchasing a luxury good is a piece of the experience.
Yeah.
So why should you know, miss that part of experience, which is free, I mean, when you buy?
Yeah.
And so this is the reason why we don't see a significant progress in the e-commerce penetration.
Yeah.
Now, the last research, they say that e-commerce penetration on average is at 20% of the total business. But we know, for experience, from internal data, that when you go to high-end products, percentage is 5, 6, 7%. Some brands don't even have any e-commerce.
Yeah.
Think about Goyard, think about Hermes for some top items. So, you know, I don't feel that e-commerce is generally a mandatory strategy for the high-end ticket. Definitely, we use e-commerce to get information. We use e-commerce to, you know, to see the product, to know the prices. But yeah, at this time the penetration is not going up.
Okay. And Professor, you mentioned choosing the right location. As you know, it's very important for the brand to be linked to certain location to create this kind of positioning. How can we negotiate the best location for a brand from your own experience?
I've been working for LVMH for many years, and I saw the group in action.
Yeah.
And basically, LVMH is the first group that any developer of retail visits, and so they get the best rates. For sure, all LVMH and Kering as a they get the best rates. Sometimes you can get a good rate even if you anticipate other brands, particularly in Middle Eastern markets where there are many shopping malls. Sometimes being the first in a mall may help because the mall owners, the mall developers, they're more willing to give you a discount if you are the early birds than if you are a follower. Of course, when the mall is established, everybody wants to go there, prices goes up.
Yeah.
But sometimes the risk of being an early bird is that you pick the wrong location or a location that will not pick up for some reason. So, again, you need a lot of experience. You need to rely on managers who have a deep knowledge of the territory. And they know what's going on, what is happening, which is the development.
Yeah.
And this is not an easy job.
Yeah. Because even like in terms of size and all of that little details goes into consideration in choosing your location, especially if you're an emerging designer.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the size matters because in particular, when you choose a store, all brands are now doing brand extension. So, even if they start from ready to wear, maybe they want to develop shoes, they want to develop accessory, they want to develop, other lines. So, if you rent a store that probably stays there for 10 years, you have to think in advance because maybe in 2 years from now, that stores may be smaller for you. You have decided to introduce other lines or other categories of the brand. So, for an emerging brand is not an easy choice, depending on what is the development strategy.
Okay, Professor, the final question we have, what is happening to luxury today from your point of view? Any upcoming trends? Anything to watch for?
Well, luxury is in crisis, no doubt. All groups, with very few exceptions, have posted negative results in the last quarters. The only exceptions are Hermes, Prada Group, and basically anyone. Chanel is flat, but Kering Group is declining, and LVMH Groups as a total is flat or in slight declining. What is the reason of that? In my opinion, is very clear. It's synthesizable in one word, which is pricing. The luxury good became too expensive. We should never forget that the success of a luxury brand is the penetration with the middle class and upper middle class. We forget to make products for the middle class and upper middle class, we kill the luxury industry. Luxury industry cannot rely only on few ultra-rich people because there are not many.
Yeah.
And every brand are competing to conquer, to get these customers. So, I mean, I track and I study prices. In luxury, you can track prices of some items who have been identical for 10, 15 years. I mean, some watches, think about some Chanel bag. Now, if you track the price of a Chanel bag, the last 10 years, they quadruple.
Yeah.
Okay, by 4.
Yeah.
This is unacceptable. And even rich people, they seem not to be interested anymore.
Yeah.
So, and this has been possible for one single reason, because all the brands are following the leaders. So the leaders are increasing prices, and we are all, in the benchmarking mode. So if they raise the price, I raise the price.
Yeah.
Everybody's raising the price. Now, this mechanism took to the fact that prices went way far away. This is so, we call this phenomena elevation. So everybody's talking about elevation, 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 but you know, we cannot elevate forever.
Yeah.
Okay, because if we keep elevating, that's why those brands which are below luxury, premium brands, now they're very successful.
Yeah.
Because you know the luxury brands left an empty market. The success of a luxury brand is always being able to do high and low. You have to find a formula to be accessible and exclusive at the same time, which sounds like an impossible equation, but it's the formula of success.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why luxury is in crisis today, because we forgot this formula. So we just push only on elevation, too much on elevation. So what I'm expecting for the future is to see brands who are now creating new products, creating new collections with a lower price point. Because of course you cannot reduce price.
Yeah.
What is done is done.
Yeah.
So we cannot reduce the price of a Rolex or of a Chanel bag. But maybe in the future Chanel may introduce a different product with a lower price point.
Or maybe a subline. We saw a lot of brands introduce
A subline.
affordable prices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially fashion can do that. Fashion can do that. The success of Miu Miu in the Prada group is exactly this.
Exactly.
Because Miu Miu, which is not a sub-brand of Prada, is another brand of the Prada group, but Miu Miu has a lower price point.
Sure.
Is a fancy product, and that's why people find this more interesting.
And maybe, as you said, Professor, it can be an opportunity for emerging brands to look into that group of consumers.
Absolutely. You know, that segment, which is below luxury, is called affordable luxury, premium, as you want to call it, is now the most interesting, is the most attractive, has more possibility, because consumers are looking for a nice, refined, well-curated product.
Yeah.
But they're not willing to pay the price that luxury brands are asking for.
Yes. Thank you so much, Professor, for your time and the insights. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Ciao. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.